another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends. These are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, here we are, another episode. Super excited about my guest today. Phebe Trotman is a successful and heart-centered entrepreneur. She's out of Canada, which is kind of fun. She's passionate about helping others discover their joy. In both her athletic and professional careers, Phoebe's personal success has been a testament that anything is possible with hard work, dedication, and a team-centered approach. As an athlete, she's achieved many accolades as a soccer player, which I am so excited to chat with you about that, including being inducted into several sports Hall of Fames, winning championship titles, and being recognized as an exceptional athlete. And she's also excelled in her career as a network marketer, which is also in my background. So I'm excited to chat with you about that, earning some top awards and recognition within her company. So before we welcome her on, we want to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right. And so with that, Phoebe, I want to welcome you to the show. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I've been looking forward to this conversation. I love what you do, and Behind the Dreamers. I mean, I love to dream, so this will be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I know. Isn't it great, dreamers? I know. It's so fun. You know, we get taught, I think, in life to squash our dreams. You know, like we get taught to be practical, don't be dreamers. And you know, one of the things I love about Behind the Dreamers is I get to talk to people that are still kind of dreamers. We get to still talk about those things. And it's so funny. Right before this show, I was talking to a guy and we were talking about how I forgot what the words that he used, but we were talking about how it's kind of like magical to be like a dreamer about things, but we have to take those dreams and actually put them into action, right? And implement. And so we were having a fun conversation about that, but I'm excited to chat with you. I think this is going to be a great show. And so we're going to dive into this thing.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So where do you want to start? How should we start?
All right. I'm going to tell you. All right. So Phoebe, tell us a little bit. I want to know what you're doing now. I know you've shared this with me, but for our audience, because I know you're into the network marketing space. So tell us a little bit about how you navigated into that. Because I always feel like these are stories that either something happened, we were doing something, we saw something, or what was kind of that bridgeway to get you into that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny. I kind of grew up around network marketing. My mom had a home-based business when I was young. And so I always, she did well in it in terms of being on stage and awards. And so I knew there was always a possibility of what can be achieved in network marketing. That being said, I was the friend who would go to everyone's parties. I was always like, someone's having a party. Sure, I'll be there. Why not? And just supporting people because network marketing has incredible products, right? So I was often, I had a lot of different products in my home. However, I'd never found a product that really I wanted to necessarily build as a business. And after soccer, I was working full time at a computer company and I was really uninspired. So I did start a few side projects. I started a coaching company with my background in soccer, and I was actually using a network marketing product to help to promote that company. That being said, I wasn't building as a business. And in my head, all these side projects I had, when the income from those became high enough, I would leave my full-time job. However, life had other plans, and the company I was working for went bankrupt. I was laid off, and I was kind of in that crossroads where it was like, okay, well, what next? And when I looked forward, and I always encourage people to do this, when you have a moment to pause or take time to pause, figure out how to do that. Look forward in terms of what you want your life to look like. And I knew I wanted to have something I could build from anywhere. I loved being around a team and working together again with my background in sports. And so I decided to build the product I was already using, build it as a actual business. And here we are 18 years later.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, I know I shared with you that I spent 22 years, actually probably more than 22. I'm still technically signed up in a network marketing company, but actively working almost 22 years in the Mary Kay world. And so I understand, I say I can resonate with you on the, understanding about the team building and representing the product and the selling. And I think one of the really neat things, I don't know about you, but where I'm coming from, I was a young mom when I started in that space. Mm-hmm. And for me, it really afforded me the flexibility couple things. One, it gave me autonomy, which I'm like to beat the bone drum. I like the autonomy, but I also really appreciated that it allowed me to be home with my kids. And so, even though I'm married, my husband makes good money. It was nice to have that extra income coming in, but also to be with my children while I was doing that. So for me, I was able to be a stay-at-home mom for all three of my kids. My youngest is now 20. My oldest is 27. Will be 28 this year. So I was able to stay with them the entire time and do that on a very, part-time to full-time basis. And I was okay with that. I liked it.
Yeah. And that's one of the beautiful things about it is it does give you that flexibility. And that was always my goal was like, when I become a mom, I want to be able to stay at home. And, the motherhood route took different turns and twists. That being said, I've worked with so many moms who that's what they've been able to do, or I should say parents in general, because it does give you that flexibility to create your own schedule and to, depending on your household income and what you want to achieve, there's opportunities there for everyone. And that's one of the beautiful things about it. And I also say, it's so much bigger than just the income. It's the people, the person you grow into, and just how it can help you grow in terms of a positive mindset and to help you cultivate those dreams and put the action behind it, which is so important when you want to go after your goals and dreams.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times, I know we talked about this, prior when we have our long conversation. I think it gets I feel like it gets a bad rap a lot of times because people hear network marketing, they go, network marketing, right? And they run. But for the people that, I've interviewed several different people, in the Mary Kay world and other companies on this particular show. And these are top earners, like the Millionaire Club people, people that are doing really well. But even for those people that don't hit that level, and I know you can attest to this, is that you just mentioned it. There's so much more that you gain from that. I have often said that, had I not gone through those 20 something years in that space of learning and mentorship and all of the things, I would not have developed I may never developed the leadership skills. We may not even be doing this podcast today because I was freaking shy for many years in the beginning of that, and I would have never gotten in front of people and talked. So you develop a lot of things besides just the monetary, the ROI of the money coming in. There's leadership that's in that. You have invaluable resources. You have mentorship. I mean, I'm going to say one more thing and then I want you to talk. But when I sort of bridged way out of my network marketing, it was not because I hated the company. I just wanted to do something different in my career. I did it for a while. I was looking for a different path. But I will tell you, I network a lot here and I'm in the Dallas area. There's a lot of networking. I did not realize how important that mentorship was until I started getting into the outside world and realized these people don't know what it is like to even have mentors. Like we just had them and we didn't pay for them. We had them as part of our career and what we did, they were there. So I think there's a lot that is valuable about it. And you can learn a lot of good sales, leadership skills, booking skills. Oh my gosh, booking skills. When to cut people loose, when to book, how to get them to show up. And when they're not, just let it go.
Totally. You learn so much more. And I mean, I'm with you. Like, I believe there's so many great skills that you learn in a network marketing environment. And just like anything, it gets a bad rap with so do a lot of professions, depending. There's good and bad in everything, in every single profession we can look at. So I just encourage people to, be open, see where it takes you. I'm with you. Like, I'm not necessarily active in the company that I've built. I still use the service. I love the company there. And just like you, I think one of the beautiful things is as we grow, we want to, a lot of people, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people like to be continued challenge. And I'm one of those people who it's like, I like to grow. I like to be challenged. And so I get excited when I can start kind of the next phase or chapter, if you will, in life. But you take the skills that you've learned in past professions, whatever that might be, just like I've taken what I learned as an athlete over into network marketing, over into being an author. Like you just continue to evolve as a person. And so network marketing, I mean, it's a great foundation for a lot of next things that you can build upon. And so I'm grateful for the profession because I definitely learned a lot and I'm the person I am today because of everything that I've learned along those years.
I think what's neat too about what you said is, your mom was doing this, when you were a child. So we've always said, more is caught than taught, right? Like kids pick up on the things that are going on. And, and I always say like, all those, I don't know about you, where you're at with this, but I always say, at least in my journey, that I hope my kids learn something. They learn the value of hard work. They learn the value of being positive. And I will say this, they don't always show in my house those behaviors, but I will hear them talking to other people and I will realize that they have some of that lingo, that language that they heard me saying to my team and to the people that I was with. And it's interesting because I still do a lot of that languaging with people in the other areas of my life. When I'm working with them, I still feel the need to praise people and recognize them and let them shine. And, because that's what I did for so many years. And I realized how important that was, because it's not something we always get, but you got to see that with your mother. You got to see her doing some of those things. And then you've got to be able to sort of experience that for yourself.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful for my upbringing. Both my mom and dad, very big into personal development and growth. My dad was an instructor for the Dale Carnegie training. So I always grew up around, seeing them read books and attending leadership and personal growth events. And it's funny because I joke, because I used to get so irritated because all the time in our car, there'd be something positive playing. And I'd be like, can we just listen to music like everybody else, And now in hindsight, I'm so grateful because there are things that just naturally kind of came out of me, in different ways, but it was because of that foundation. So I always encourage parents, your children do hear and see what you're doing. And even if they push back, which I did for a lot of years, I just pushed back on it, but it was a seed that was planted. And so it's so powerful. And it's so interesting now, being in a space where I'm working with people, helping them, encouraging them. And I'm so grateful because I've had so many lessons and so many things that I've learned along the way from my parents on how they handled certain situations that my older brother and I went through, that they handled them with a growth mindset. And it truly has set us up well.
Yeah, I love that, Phoebe. And I'm glad for you that you were in that environment, because what a difference that makes. I mean, it's interesting because I think so many people are not that way, and they stop learning. And I was just having this conversation with my husband, and then when we walk our dogs at like 6 a.m. every day, and sometimes we have these conversations, and I was actually talking about Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I was talking about that because I get in there to kind of see what's happening, on the political scape, which every time I get in there, Phoebe, I come out and I'm just agitated. But it amazes me. I'm like, you want to learn a lot about people? Get in there and look at the comments, the way people talk to each other, the way people, the types of things they say. And I realized today I'm in the middle of reading one of John Maxwell's, his latest book on how to be a great communicator. He's one of my favorite. I'm reading this, and he's talking about all these different things about, like, if you want to be a good communicator, you got to believe it and all of these things. And I'm like, it's so true that whatever we're exposed to is how we operate, right? Like the circle of influence, and however we were brought up, what we saw makes such a difference later on in life. And if you didn't have that, you have to work so hard to negate all of that stuff that you had. And it's not because parents, I think, are bad, or I think it's just what they know. Your parents were in whatever reason, I don't know how they ended up where they were, but I love it because that I wish that I say this because my kids saw me do this from a very early age. They saw me from the very beginning in this environment, but I didn't have that growing up in my environment. My sister and I didn't have that. Mm-hmm. And we've had to work really hard. I love my parents, but we've had to work really hard at deconditioning a lot of our thought processes, right? That scarcity mindset, moving into abundance mindset. Now it's funny because I've been doing this so long now that for the most part, people probably think my head's in the clouds half the time. No, it's not. I see what's going on, but I try to find the bright side in everything that I do because I think there's always a lesson to be learned, But I just love this story with you because I think, wow, your parents really did these things that ingrained some good belief systems in you guys going forward. And that's stuff that you can just carry on from generation to generation to generation.
Absolutely. But one of the things that I think is so key, and you touched on it in your story, and I was going to share it with my parents, is it was a choice. It wasn't necessarily what they saw in their parents. They made a conscious choice, right? And just like you shared with your upbringing, like you made a conscious choice. And I think that's one thing that's so important for us to remember. We have choices. And I say it's in our choices that champions are made, because you can choose whatever you want to do going forward. And yes, it's true, sometimes depending on how the foundation was laid as a young child, what you might have to choose and remove. And just even though my parents laid a strong foundation in terms of certain things, there's still certain other pieces that I've had to learn and continue to push through to get to that growth. And that's where it's a choice. And so regardless of wherever someone is starting right now who's listening, it just takes one choice. It takes one, just taking a step forward. Maybe it's starting with a good book. It's listening to this podcast. It's, plugging into training and just continuing to surround yourself, because so much of what we see is negative, that it is key for us to be able to continue to plug into positivity. And that is what will continue to come out of you with time.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs, are you ready to level up your leadership skills? Tune in now for an exclusive offer designed just for you.
This is my time.
Did you know 63% of consumers prefer businesses aligned with their values? Recognizing your core values isn't just vital for business growth, it's the bedrock of effective leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or an aspiring creator, identifying your core values is a key step in constructing the framework of a successful leader, enabling you to lead authentically, expand your business, and live life on your terms.
Never settled on play, putting the kettle to flame. I go 100 all day, foot on the pedal, no brakes. 10, 9, paid all my dues, waited in line. 8, 7.
Are you ready to access tools to kickstart your leadership journey? Unlock a treasure trove of insights and get your free resources at www.linktree/Jennifer Loading. Take that crucial first step toward realizing your leadership aspirations and elevate your leadership game today.
Ready to shine, brighter than
I agree with you, Phoebe. I agree. And I think it's a continual process, because we all still have things we have to deprogram. We have belief systems, because it's not just our parents aren't the only influences in our lives. We go to school, we have, media, all these things at us all the time. But I think the really, you said important thing is that conscious decision to make the change, right? But I think like you said, the next step further is to recognize that this is going to continue. It's a continual process. It's not hey, I read a book, I'm done today, I learned something, no more. No, it is a continual. And I will tell you, I love to read. I didn't always like to read. I do now. And I find that when I'm not reading, I get very stagnant in my thinking. I start to find myself going down rabbit holes I don't like. And so then I'm like, okay, we need to get a book out. We need to get going. So right now I'm reading John Maxwell on how to be a better communicator, and I'm loving it. So I read a couple weeks ago, I finished up reading Jamie Kern Lima's book, Worthy. Oh my gosh. Great book. Awesome book. Finished that one up. Then my next one I read was Brain Glue by James Bonds, how to make things sticky, like your marketing campaign sticky. Learn some cool things in there, And so I feel like we just have to say that, make the conscious choice to continue to keep doing things to better ourselves, because it's not just about us. It's about all the people that come into our lives. When we make ourselves better, then we give permission to other people to also treat us differently, show up differently, and also the opportunity to see that they can also do things to fix their situations.
Absolutely. It's just being intentional with it, right? And I love what you share. I'm very similar. I love to read. And I've noticed that as well too. When I don't take that time. And again, it's a choice. We all have choices. We all have a certain amount of time. It's what we're doing with that time. And so plugging into good books and listening to positivity, whether it's when you're working out, whether when you're in your car, like how can you just and what it is it's just replacing something that you're already doing with something else, right? Just making those small little shifts. And it's those small little shifts over time that will have a huge impact. But it does start with just making one little shift. And I encourage people, it's like, yeah, just start with reading a couple pages, right? Sometimes, they say if you read 10 pages a day, how much you can read. But for some people, it's like, whoa, 10 pages. I don't even know where to start. Start with 2 pages. That's okay. You're making that intentional choice to move forward with something small, and you'll see how it'll grow with time.
I like that, Phoebe. I agree. I like it. Small changes. And I talk about that all the time. We don't want to set ourselves up for failure. So how can we create wins? Start small, build yourself up. Right. It's good. So, and I can hear all this athletic mindset stuff coming through. And I think I shared with you, my daughter I had all 3 of my kids played soccer at different times. Middle child was select soccer. Thought she was going to do that for a while. And then she decided kind of around high school, she wanted to go into cross country and track. And so went into running and did that for a while. And so I love this. I would love to know, and you've said a lot of good things about the, athletic and bringing it into the work that you're doing now, but maybe, what are some key things that you really felt like in that space has really helped you today, like with what you're doing now?
You know, it's interesting because I joke when I started in my network marketing business and when I was like, okay, I'm doing this as a business, I actually didn't bring over some of that athletic mindset. And one of the things was I wasn't consistent. Like when I got laid off, there was a roller coaster of emotions. One of them though, I was excited because I was like, oh, I don't have to work now. I'm an entrepreneur. And so I'd like work one day and then I'd be like, I don't need to work for the next 2 days. Like that was what my idea of being an entrepreneur was. And so I didn't have very good results. And it wasn't until I started to actually look at it from an athletic standpoint, like what did I do to create success on the field? Well, it was all the things I did off the field, if you will, like behind the scenes to help me perform and being consistent. And so once I was able to bring that over in terms of, well, being coachable as well, I was used to having coaches. I was used to, looking in the mirror, having that kind of tough love conversation with myself as an athlete. What can I do better? Owning that, becoming accountable to, setting a goal and going after it, being consistent. And I joke now, I'm like, if you want to have consistent results as an entrepreneur, we have to have consistent activity in doing the right things, the things that are going to produce the results that you're looking for. And once that kind of hat came on and I realized, okay, what did I do in sports that helped me do this? Let me bring it over here. That's when I started to have those results that I was looking for and continue to grow. And a big piece of it was at the time, being patient. And I am I'm working on my patience, but as go-getters, we like to have things now. It's like, okay, we did something, we want the result, not realizing that everything has a growing period, if you will. And when you plant that seed, you're not going to necessarily get that harvest right away. And so I, started teaching my team. It's like, if you want to celebrate the harvest, you have to celebrate planting the seed in the sense of be consistent with what you need to do to create those results that you're looking to have.
Yeah. No, it's good. And I think we all have those, go through those moments where we have to, I guess maybe we say that it's like a coming to Jesus moment where we realize we're going to have to do the work. Like we're going to have to do the things, if we want the things to happen the way we want them to happen. Right. But I do think sometimes, as entrepreneurs, we do get into that mindset. We're like, I'm an entrepreneur now and I can kind of do what I want to do until you, like you said, you realize nothing's happening. Right. We always had to say like nothing happens until you sell something. You got to start selling. Right. I mean, there's all the processes up to that, but you got to make a sale to make anything happen. So
yeah,
and doing that about that.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say also doing the stuff sometimes that you don't necessarily want to do, right?
Yeah.
There are those things like as an athlete, like I didn't necessarily love fitness in the sense of doing sprints and that piece of soccer. I love to just play the game. That being said, conditioning is a big part of how it's going to help you perform in a game. And it's the same thing in doing a business. There are going to be certain tasks that you may not love to do. However, it's essential to get the result. And so focusing on how can I make it fun? I'm a big love to have fun with stuff. So I would create a lot of contests and incentives and things like that for my team. And I do the same now for my own personal stuff in terms of like writing. I make it fun. Okay, well, when this book is released, this is how I'm going to reward myself and different things to add that fun element into it as well, too.
Yeah, that's great, Phoebe. So what's next? What's on the horizon? Like what's happening right now with Phoebe in your world?
Yeah, so I just released the second book in a book series called Never Quit on a Bad Day, Inspiring Stories of Resilience. So the first book came out last year and getting incredible reviews from that one. That's featuring short stories from thriving entrepreneurs. And this one just came out a few weeks ago now, and it's featuring stories from accomplished athletes. And it's really all about, as we're talking about, how do you continue to stay inspired and, encouraged through those tough times. And one of my motivations for writing the book was I really wanted to share the story behind the story, because I find so often people will see someone and they'll be like, well, that's good for them. And, they don't realize all the tough stuff that person went through and had to grow through to get to where they are. And so the goal with the book is to shed a little bit of light about the story behind the story. And most importantly, what did that person do to work through that tough time to get to the other side? Because even though our situations may not be the same, the tough stuff we go through, there's still strategies, if you will, perspectives, ideas, things that we can carry over to help us when we are going through those tough things. And that's what the book really does shed light on too.
That's good. So I had a mentor that I worked with for a couple of years. One of my many, I always say I had a mentor. That was one of my many mentors, but I had this one for 2 years. And he always used to say, that which is most personal is universal. So like, in other words, we always think our stuff is an isolated thing, but it's really kind of, they're universal if you really look at the main things and not all the little pieces around it, but the main themes are always universal, right? And so when you think about, you kind of said, these entrepreneurs that you interviewed, you wanted to talk about their stories behind it. the universal story is they had to go through something hard to get to success, right? The story, the details around the story may be isolated to or particular to their story, but the universal message is they had to go through something hard to get where they are today. And I love that you did that. I think that's a lot. I think you and I are doing some similar, things. And I think that that's what excites me too, is really seeing people shine and do things and go through things and come out on the other side, whether it's an athlete or somebody going through some hard disease, or whether it's a business, something where somebody's making that, that transition, or I call it maybe I don't know, what do you want to say? Like this journey they're going through, like this butterfly metamorphosis,
Yeah, because we all go through it, right? We all go through it. And it's kind of, again, as we circle back, it's those choices, right? What do we choose to learn from it? How do we choose to move forward from it? What do we choose to, how can we help someone else through something that they're going through as well, too? And so it's really been a lot of fun in terms of, creating this book series. And as I said, it's about that continually evolving and growing, and just to be able to help other people a little bit on their journey just by sharing some insight and some stories of what other people have gone through.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question about the book writing process, just because I know somebody on here may want to write a book. I know I wrote one and it was hard. I mean, it's because I'm not patient. It's part of the problem. And I don't know about you, but for me, when I was composing mine, the hardest part was the outline, because I had to get sort of a order together of how I wanted this to go. And I like to just, if I want to write, I just want to sit down and write. Like, I just want to write, but you got to have a flow to things, right? And so for me, that was the hardest part. Once I had that, and I got help with that. I had somebody help me with that. But once I got that, the other parts were a little easier to fill in. So I'd love to know from you, because you've done a couple now, you've done more than one. And so what was maybe the most challenging part for you in that process?
The most challenging part. Yeah. You know what? Part of it was the first book really flowed. It came together very quickly. Again, I had help. I'm a big team person. And so I knew when I was starting this process of, I got excited about the idea and the theme and what I wanted it to look like. And I had a clear vision in terms of that piece. The actual breakdown of how to do it, that's when I went to people who knew how to do that, right? Again, the learning and being coachable and finding people who could help along the way. And so that really came together. And in my mind, I had a vision that I would finish the first book, and then the next book right away I would start it, right? That was kind of my thought process, and had some personal things that I was going through in terms of family. I've now become a caregiver for my mom. And so it was a huge shift, and I had to really just pause and stop everything in a lot of ways. And it was hard, and it is still very hard and very challenging. So I found getting the mental clarity to start the next book was probably the hardest piece of it all, because of everything else that was going on. And I really had to just give myself permission to slow down, to really go, okay, what is the priority right now in this particular season of life? And it was, and is still, making sure my mom is good and everything along those lines. And then once, things settled a little bit, then it was like, okay, I can do this. And I just started writing, and then it did come together very, very quickly with some incredible athletes who are contributing.
Cool. Okay. So yes. And so, as far as the book goes, I was going to say on the mental clarity part that yes, I think that when you try to force something and you're not in the right space to do it, it just doesn't work. And I think this is on every level. I have these conversations because even on fitness, like I've really, because I've been going through some health stuff, I've been trying to get myself back in alignment. It's weird because it's not normal. It's like inflammatory stuff. It's not like, heart disease, that kind of stuff, because I'm healthy. I work out, right? But what I've had to do is I've had to learn, just speaking on a level of the body. When I don't feel like I can go out and run 2 to 3 miles today, we're not going to run 2 to 3 miles today. I got to be in the right mindset and the right physicality, right? So I think that what you're saying about this whole process is, where are your priorities? And if at this moment it needs to be here, and if in my case, it's making sure my health is right, not overdoing it, because I want to push, I want to be, like I want to be able to run, do my thing, So I think it's listening to where you need to be, where your priorities are at in that moment. And when you can come back to that space in a healthy frame of mind. And also, right, get your nervous system regulated. I like to talk about that one, because a part of the reason we can't do what we need to do is because we're dysregulated, right? Get that right. Then you can do what you just did. Get in there, and then it starts flowing,
Yeah. And it's important to give yourself that grace too, because I do know that was a tough one, because I was really forcing it. I was like, no, I got to do it. And it was like, wait a second, who says I have to release the second book right now. That was me. That was just me making a decision, right? And I think that's really important to, as you're doing, listening to your body. And what I had to do was just kind of listen and take a moment and take inventory and kind of reflect a little bit. And again, pause, take that moment to pause. And it was just beautiful how everything came together when I had that clarity, and I was able to kind of sit and write how it all came together. And it came together very, very quickly. I mean, I started the process for book number 2 in January and released it in May because it flowed, and I'm just grateful to the incredible lineup of athletes who shared their incredible story, because the book is a powerful, powerful read to help people, and not just for athletes, but people in general, to really go after their goals and dreams.
It's cool, baby. Well, congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
An awesome thing. And I know when you're in, it's much easier to work when you're in the right frame of mind. And anybody listening to this, because most of the people I'm sure that are listening to this are probably in their mind some kind of achiever wanting to do something. You said some great things. Sometimes we just have to pause. We've got to stop putting these unacceptable metrics on ourselves and setting ourselves up for failure, right? Doesn't mean we don't set goals. It doesn't mean we don't want to achieve. It just means doing things in a way that you're not going to kill yourself in the process, right? And you're not compromising the things that are important to you to do it, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Love it. So one more question I want to ask you. You said so many great things here. I know we're both like bopping around. I'm like, I'm getting warm. I got to move around. I'm getting too excited. I want to know what you said, and I think we could sum this up because I think you've said a lot, but I'd love to know just any final things that you would say that you learned about yourself in all of this.
What have I learned about myself? Ooh, that's a great question. I would just say, a couple things. One, the power of surrounding yourself with great people. Like I was speaking at an event the other day, and I talked about engines and anchors, how the people that we have in our life can either, be engines in terms of propel us forward in our goals and dreams, or they can be anchors and kind of hold us back in some ways. And one of the things that, this book series truly is here because of engines that I've had in my life that had, they're the ones, 2 great friends suggested to write a book. And I was like, I don't know. And, with their encouragement, and then I got super excited about it. And now knowing that this is what is meant to happen in this next chapter and season of life, to be able to share, some of the lessons that I've learned along my journey as an athlete and as an entrepreneur, and putting it into. So just really be careful, again, who are you surrounding yourself with? Who do you share your goals and dreams with? And not to say, anchors still serve a place in your life. And I have a lot of, and I love them. It's just, who do I choose to spend my time with? Who do I choose to share, what I'm working through and growing through, especially when you're in those challenging seasons, because those engines will help you even when you're going through tough stuff, which, as you know, we've shared, like some of the stuff I'm going through right now. I'm just so grateful for having engines who are there to help lift me up and to say, like, you can still do this. You can still move through this hard season that you're going through. And the second piece would just be gratitude. Even when you're going through tough stuff, how do you find those little moments to hold on to be grateful for? Because it just helps you shift that perspective. And sometimes that's all you need, especially when you're going through a very challenging season. And that's something that I've been doing, and holding on to through this next phase, if you will, is just finding those moments of gratitude to be grateful for and hold on tight to those.
That's good. Engines and anchors. I like it. It's good. I was thinking about the little engine that could. So I'm like, I think I can. I can. Perfect. That's great. I mean, it's a great way to remember it for me, because I'm thinking engines and anchors. And I like
that, though. That's great. That's great.
You do need anchor people in your life, but I don't think that they're the people that keep you safe and they keep you grounded and they keep you here. They're not going to be the people that put you into the space when you're needing to dream and go to that next level. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's great. Phebe, you're awesome. I love what you're doing. Congratulations on all your success. I think, you're lighting up, and I like that you're enjoying what you're doing, because I think that's important, that we have to truly enjoy what we do, because when we're convicted about what we're trying to put out there into the world, the messaging, then that comes through in our authenticity in the work that we create. So I love it. If our audience wants to get in touch with you, maybe they want to find these books, they want to reach out to you, follow you, who knows, where do you want us to send them?
Yeah, so you can check out my website, neverquitonabadday.com, as well as I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Never Quit on a Bad Day. And I'd love to connect. I'd love to hear what they're working on, how I can cheer them on, support them, and just, I encourage people, go after your goals and dreams. They're there for the taking. So it's just a matter of going forward.
I like your website domain, by the way. I saw your email when it came through. I don't know that I paid attention to it the first time, but I saw it today and I'm like, this is cute. I like it. Never Quit on a Bad Day. I like it. It's cute. It works.
Thank you.
To our audience, we appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. And if you enjoy the show, head on over to Apple. You can give us a review over there. And of course, hit that subscribe button on the YouTube so we can keep sharing all these awesome stories about these awesome people. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.